Good to see you all. Welcome back, everyone. Oh, so many lovely, familiar faces. How are we enjoying the session so far? Who's got a stall in the back here? Give us a wave if your startup has a station. Are people visiting? Have you closed some deals? Yes, you have. He's nodding along. They've done a great job of that. A lot of mentions of AI today. Reminds me of that Apple address we saw, where I think they mentioned the word AI 37 times, I think it was. 37 times in a space of 20 minutes or so. But we're going to move on with that, because right now, we're going to be joined by a panel run by the fantastic PwC, led by Rob, Cargo. But first, a little video from them.
Wanneer menselijke vindingrijkheid en de juiste technologie samenkomen, opent dat nieuwe perspectieven. Die unieke samenwerking zorgt voor de beste oplossingen. Human-led, tech-powered noemen we dat. PwC.
Well, good afternoon, the next web. It's amazing to be here. My name is Rob McCargo. I'm the Technology Impact Leader at PwC. And it was 4 years ago when I was last on the stage at the Next Web conference. It feels like a lifetime ago. There was about 24 people in the audience. Has something changed? What is going on? We're talking about AI so much these days. Now, I named this conversation looking at beyond the AI inflection point. And the reason for that is I think we'll all agree that we're at this turning point after which there's a dramatic change that will either lead to good or to negative outcomes. But what we're talking about today, and building upon that terrific intervention from Sir Martin Sorrell there, is how do we see through the noise? How do we see through the hype? How do we do this in a way that doesn't follow the noise, and it also doesn't go down this negative dystopian track of the story as well? So what we're here to do today is to chart a kind of a calm, sober, central course through this, and to make this real and really get this thing happening. Just wanted to also speak to the bigger picture here. So for the last 26 years, PwC have delivered our CEO survey. And the highlight from this, we launched at Davos earlier this year, suggested that 40% of CEOs say that unless they substantially change their model, their business could be economically unviable within the space of 10 years. So we have this extraordinary pressure on business leaders to drive change, to drive digital transformation. But on the other side, this equal and opposite issue around concern and fear and anxiety. And how do you do this in a way that's innovation at the right speed? So I'm really pleased to say that I'm not joined on this journey alone. I've got two fantastic co-pilots with me on the stage today. First of all, on the far side, we've got Microsoft's National Technology Officer, Rob Elsinger, and also my PwC colleague, Mona de Boer, as well. Welcome, Mona, and welcome, Rob. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, we've heard some fantastic talks this morning. We've heard a bit about AI, Rob, haven't we? I'm spending a lot of time, probably every minute of the day, thinking, talking, and advising on this at the moment. But how do we actually get started on this? What are those core building blocks, the necessary baseline fundamentals that businesses have to get right to make sure they can exploit this opportunity for good?
Yeah. So thanks for having me. So I'm the National Technology Officer for Microsoft in the Netherlands, and I deal with emerging technology and impact on society. And as you can imagine, that's probably the best job you can have at the moment in a company like Microsoft. So I talk a lot with, especially with boards of large organizations, but also with the government, with researchers about, let's say, the impact of this technology on society at large. And I think one of the biggest things, so let's say, talking to the ingredients that we currently have, is that everyone had a déjà vu moment from ChatGPT and suddenly realizes how this technology is suddenly in the hands of everyone. So let's make sure that we make sure that this technology benefits everyone. And at the same time, we are a little bit afraid of what it already can do. It can pass an MBA exam or a bar exam in the US without any additional training. So should we ask anything from this model that's powered by large language model, the engine behind it, or should we really be smart about what we like it to do? So I think the biggest the most important thing that we have to look at is data. Data within organizations and really understanding the data that we have, because you can have a powerful model, you can ask it anything, but if you have a powerful model that understands your language and you can connect that to your data, imagine the possible. I think that is the most important thing.
Thanks, Rob. Mona, from your area, how do you advance this in a way that builds trust, that allows organizations to scale innovation quickly? Maybe you could just elaborate upon your particular area of focus here.
Yeah, for sure. And great to be here together with you. In the past 6 years, I've been working in the domain of responsible AI, so with organizations on how to deal with this topic, right? And also in my role as educator and academic researcher. And I think, what we've seen, AI is around there for a longer time, but in the past 6 months is incredible. And I think what it has done, it has put this important trade-off for organizations. So how do you balance the opportunity side of AI? And generative AI has made incredible steps there. How do you balance that with your responsibility as an organization to do good with this? So be successful as an organization, but also make sure that consumers, patients, citizens, those at the receiving end of your innovations also are protected.
Yeah, very good. Now, we hear a lot in the last few years about the ethical considerations of AI. We've seen hundreds of principles announced around announcing AI should be ethical, fair, transparent, interpretable, and beyond. But there's a real issue here around operationalizing this, making it real within the enterprise. Rob, could you maybe just speak about what Microsoft are doing around this to make this real and not put this into practice?
Well, we started around 6 years ago with a committee called Ether, advising our top management about AI and the implications and how we could apply this responsibly. You can call it ethical AI, but I think ethical is a much broader term. But we have a responsibility, and we already had belief by that time that AI was going to change the way we work and society as a large. We think that every application that will be written by a bank, by a government, by a startup will be infused with AI. So we better think about how we do this. So we asked this committee to give advice on to our top leadership team, and that is not only engineers, because we're engineers, we're excited about the technology and what it can do, but it also requires people that are ethicists or philosophers who show us the picture of what it could mean if it is being used in a different way. So from there, we defined a number of principles, but principles is not enough. You can talk about transparency, about bias, about privacy, security. And then the next step that we made is having an Office of Responsible AI, setting standards, doing research, and really build a culture within our own company around responsible AI. And we have a responsibility as a company to make sure that we bring this technology to the market in a responsible way. And let's say, I think you can understand, if we do this wrong, trust in Microsoft will be gone very quickly. So we take this very seriously. And at the moment, I think we make the next step in helping our customers applying this in a responsible way.
Yeah, and we've just been part of this new announcement with your customer commitments, haven't we? So.
Exactly, yeah. So we recently announced what we call the AI customer commitments. And we committed to open up and be transparent about our learnings about AI and responsible AI, share all the materials that we have, share the training material that we use for our own organization. I do have a team in the Netherlands only of 25 people who are in responsible AI. That same material will be given to our customers. We will help you, let's say, with regulatory questions, with implementing this in a responsible way, but we do this also together with partners. And I'm really proud that PwC is one of those partners helping us in, well, helping our customers.
Yeah, sure. Now, I think the idea that this is going to drive substantial change is becoming far more apparent now. I talk about one story when this became clear to me. So 4 years ago when I was speaking here last time, it was always a sort of the party piece. Wheel out the guy that talks about AI, and we'll get back to our day job doing basic, spreadsheets and robotic process automation. Really, since this generative AI breakthrough, it really hit home to me about 6 months ago, where I downloaded ChatGPT on my mobile. And my youngest daughter, she's 7 years old, she's called Neve. And I thought I'd try to use ChatGPT to write her bedtime story. And it was so successful, she insists on it every single night now. So her stories coming from ChatGPT are far better than the ones I can do myself. So I sort of see myself as the first victim of job displacement by generative AI. Now, I actually agree with a lot of what Sir Martin Sorrell said in the previous session. And for those of you that missed that session, he was talking about how the noise in the media, and not the Financial Times, I should hasten to add, nor TMW, is really leaning towards the extremities here around the impact on labor, around skills, and on workforce. And I think everyone in the room has a real duty and of care around responsible use of the language to ensure that this is done in a way that doesn't drive anxiety across the workforce. We think about practical steps. So Mona, maybe to come to you first of all, thinking about the workforce of the future, thinking about the jobs and skills question, can you maybe elaborate further about how we're thinking of doing this ourselves and with our clients at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very interesting point because this is very top of mind, right? I do think it has to do something with the timing. So in the short term, you see that AI in general, the applications are focused on optimizing what we already do. And in that, you can see that people become more efficient. So something that took maybe 7 days takes now 2 days. So that's doing something right with work. But this is short term. So on the longer term, AI applications will focus on doing new things. Yeah, if I talk about organizations developing new products and services. And this will require, again, new skills of a workforce to be educated. And I'm in education myself, so I have the pleasure to educate, well, the next generation of people on the labor market, talents. And it is really top of mind also in education to reskill, upskill, reskill, continuous learning. So I'm not too afraid about the exciting things that will happen in the labor market going forward.
Yeah, sure. I'm always asked this question, Rob, on panels about jobs that are more likely to be disrupted, jobs that are less likely. I believe that barbering is safe. So for those with the beards, stick to your human barber. And I believe that also AI struggles with British sarcasm. So we'll be fine. Don't know about you guys, but we're going to be okay. But in terms of the Microsoft approach here, I mean, the language here is important, isn't it? We talk about automation. We also talk about this concept of augmentation. Could you maybe elaborate further, Rob, around the Microsoft approach to this issue around jobs and skills?
Yeah. So let's say, first of all, I think we are already working on, let's say, digital skills. There is already, let's say, we put a lot of emphasis on, because we're moving to a digital economy, in getting from education to within companies and help people to acquire digital skills. This will require a new digital skill. Prompt engineer is probably the new job. There will also, like GDPR, there will be a lot of lawyers looking at regulation and
the lawyers do okay out of it. Okay.
I think we're doing okay. Yeah. And like you said, there are a lot of jobs. There is a shortage at this moment, also because of demographics in jobs in plumbers, in people who are building our houses, in healthcare, those kind of things. Even in the Dutch paper this morning, there is a real problem. And one of the things we can tackle will be able to tackle this, is helping to relieve the administrative burden, for example, for people in healthcare, to make sure that we have, that we can take more care of the elderly and the sick people. So I think there are a lot of, let's say, interesting things. We did a research among 30,000 people globally, and we found out that 40% of the people are actually afraid that AI might replace their job. I personally think that someone else using AI will replace your job, if that's the case, and not AI itself, because it should be a co-pilot. But at the same time, 70% is really looking forward to getting help from AI in the digital overload, in meetings, in the things they have to do. When we show how it can help you answering your emails or prioritizing, it's the first thing people want, because everyone is feeling that burden.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this leads on to use cases. We know that TNW has some phenomenal startup entrepreneurs. The investment community is well represented in the room today. And where do you start? Someone described Gen AI and ChatGPT as the Swiss Army knife of technology. The number of directions it can be applied to is infinitesimal in many respects. And this is a problem for businesses, business leaders, Mona, isn't it? People we speak to. And where, therefore, your efforts should be directed if you are harnessing Gen AI in your applications as well. I also hear some pretty bad use cases as well in my job. Now, has anybody heard of Riz GPT? And I only heard about this Riz GPT the other day because my son talks about this word Riz. Apparently it's like attractiveness to the opposite sex, charisma. So these guys have built this tool called Charisma as a Service. So if you're on a date, you've got augmented reality overlay, and you're running out of things to say, it can give you prompts of suggested conversation track if you're really struggling. I'm thinking of using it for panel moderation in the future if I get stuck as well. Now, there's all sorts of fun things like that going on, or not. Where's the real value coming from? What are the use cases, the industries, the domains, and the functions that are most ripe for disruption around this? Mona, I don't know if you want to start with you around what you're seeing with our clients particularly.
Yeah, so you see that, well, there are a lot of use cases around. I see it very much in the direct interaction of organizations and their customers or their patients, so you can say any industry. And I love that because it's directly about using technology to give people a better experience. Yeah. So I see, when I look at my clients and around me what kind of conversations are going on, the value of enhancing that. But also, as Rob mentioned, taking away in people who work in healthcare the humongous amount of administration they have to do, and using more speech and saving them time in that respect. So as a lot, but yeah, I love it that it's there. It's not at the back end where you don't see it. Yeah. Organizations apply and see the opportunities there where they are. In the front end of where they have to deal with society.
Maybe I can elaborate a little bit on that. I see a lot of interest in retail, in CPG, in banks, insurance companies, and then you ask where does it start? Well, it starts in the boardroom. It doesn't start in the data and AI department anymore like the old days, where you have people who studied math doing this, but it starts in the boardroom. Really engage with your CFO, with your HR director, with your supply chain manager. Set a number of, let's say, goals where you really struggle as your company in, and make these goals knowledge. Let's say introduce those goals to your teams in your own organization and make sure. And I see this happening with large retailers, for example, and large banks, where sometimes they have over 50 or 100 hackathon teams working on such a thing. So embrace it as a company in your strategy, but also embrace it with all the people in your organization and let it help you.
Yeah, sure. And I think you mentioned previously, Rob, about the customer domain in particular is looking really ripe for that in terms of that, and really maybe the personalization. Martin Sorrell on the previous panel talks about hyper-personalization, and it always felt quite far off. This is real now, isn't it?
This is real. So some of the banks have 5 million conversations every year with their customers. They have to type that in, put it in a CRM system, and it only takes 2 or 5 minutes, but do the math, it takes a lot of time. And at the same time, we're moving, let's say, to a digital relationship with your customers. And think about how you can make that conversation with your customer really personalized for the type of person it is, for the type of service, and it's very different for someone who wants to invest a couple of billions in stock, rather than someone want to open a bank account for their children.
Yeah. So I just wanted to briefly touch upon innovation, and I think building upon the point around the C-suite. In the main, these people are not digital natives. A lot of the innovation is coming from within your organization. And how do you triage use cases? How do you inspire innovation bottom up? Mona, we've got a working group of about 5,000 people globally now helping to pull those use cases together. Could you maybe just expand upon how do you collect the use cases to the ones with the greatest value?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of value drivers underlying AI. AI really in using in a way around business cases that optimize, increase operational efficiency. We just mentioned a couple of examples where that is super helpful. Enhancing existing products and services. But I think, and it will take a little time because we have to go through this phase first, but it will take a little time where organizations will also see how they can develop new products and services. So the use cases now are, as we said, or let's say to come back to the board, Rob.
Yeah.
So this conversation, I always say you have to have a plan. And in that plan, you have to know what kind of value you're looking for with AI. Once that is clear, and that is C-suite level top of mind, once that is clear, then people, technology, data, etc. come in.
Now, may I close off with one ask, because it's not only corporations that are here, but also a lot of startups. And I would like to ask those startups, really think about, let's say, what you can do for digital skills, what you can do for sustainability, and how it can benefit society. And not just the Netherlands, not just Europe, but let's say at the moment there are maybe 8 billion people at the other end of the world who missed the Industrial Revolution. So how can we help using this technology in a way that it benefits all of us?
Now, we're up against time, folks, I'm afraid. I mean, I just wanted to sort of finish with a few personal reflections. I think you've spoken about the opportunity to share the benefits of this more globally. Mona, you've spoken about the opportunities in specific sectors. As I come to the end of the talk today, I just wanted to bring a sort of personal dimension to this. Very sadly, very recently, I lost my father to cancer. I deliberated over coming today or not. And I felt this is an important conversation to have. We've got so much to get right, folks. We've got to bring the best of startups, of investors, of business leaders, of government officials. We have to bring the greatest coalition together to collaborate on this opportunity, because the opportunity is within our grasp now. The opportunity to drive healthcare benefits, to really make life better for the world is it's not just a sort of a pipe dream now. We've got the platform, the tool, and the data, and the skills, and the desire to want to do this. But it won't happen if we don't join forces on this. So it's really a final call to arms to say, let's get together on this. Let's work together. We're not here to say we've got all the answers, but we're keen to collaborate and work with you all. So enjoy the rest of the next web conference. It's a brilliant event. Hopefully catch us after the session. And a final thanks to Rob and to Mona. And I've been Rob McCargo. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.